Well guys, here we are, one of the most iconic amps ever created, and an amp responsible for countless legendary albums that have almost certainly shaped each and every one of us in some way, shape, or form as musicians. For me personally, it was Slash using this amp and his Jubilee, kind of one of the most iconic pairings ever, most of his career. But as we'll go through in this video, it's a platform that can be shaped and molded in numerous ways. Before I get into this, I need to give a big shout out to the guys at Zzounds for sending me this amp to try out for a little while. Like just about everything that I review here on my channel, I take gear onto the stage with my 90s and 2000s rock cover band to see kind of how do these things hold up in the real world, and then I bring them back here into the studio to show you guys. Before we get into this, if you enjoy what you hear, feel free to show my channel some love by subscribing to help get these videos out there to more new viewers and feed that algorithm. Okay, so funny story. I actually requested this unit back in July of last year, and for the entire rest of last year, all the way up to maybe a month ago when this thing actually shipped, I was getting backorder emails every single month with like no end in sight. But finally, it's here, and although I have a lot of thoughts on this after finally getting to properly spend some non-Guitar Center showroom floor time with it, I will try to be brief and to the point. But if all you want to do is hear it, I've got some timestamps for the different sections that you can just jump down below to whatever you want to hear. Okay, so let's get into this amp. It's a 1-ish channel. You can plug into the low gain or the high gain input, kind of depending on how much initial gain you want. It has your typical effects loop, your normal standard controls, and it also has a effects loop switch on the back to toggle between line level or instrument level, and that's pretty much it. You turn it on, you plug it in, and you make incredibly loud rock and roll music, and that's kind of what this amp is all about. For a lot of us though, that's not really where the main appeal of this unit lies, as weird as that sounds. What I think makes this a special amp is that it provides an extremely potent platform to sort of craft a unique and personal high gain sound using boost and drive pedals like these. And that's kind of the angle that I want to focus on with this unit today. You see, when I first got this and I plugged into it, I was honestly a little bit underwhelmed. My knee-jerk reaction was that maybe I kind of made a mistake asking to review this because it wasn't really what I thought it would be, and I was left with the initial you shouldn't meet your heroes kind of feeling. What I quickly discovered though was that once you put a boost in front of the amp, it comes alive in a way that very few amps that I've played can do. And it's not just that, it reacts and sounds very differently based on which type of drive you put in front of it, and that's when it clicked in my brain. So for this video, we will quickly hear just the amp itself, kind of a little bit more than what we heard earlier, but I want to spend a little bit of time with a few of these different drive pedals to let you guys hear kind of how different drive pedals can push and shape the sound in different directions, and then we'll talk about how this performed on stage with a pretty big twist. So as you can hear, this really isn't a high gain metal monster out of the box by default. It's got a really big, enormous sound, kind of like the Nitro. But for a baseline platform though, it's loud and it punches hard and it has a nice, moderate, crunchy rock sound that can clean up really well. So as you can hear, there is a lot of sonic potential from this amp as a platform for different style boost and drive pedals. I think we all kind of have our favorite go-to pedals for certain types of sounds and structures, and this amp, it really does a great job of just kind of staying out of the way and letting you craft your own high gain sound while simply providing a very loud and powerful foundation to build on that doesn't really sound bad with any of these pedals here or any of the others that I've tried that I haven't shown in the video. The amp really does let each one of these pedals express their own kind of unique characteristics into the sound, and that's not all though. This amp is an absolutely amazing power amp for modelers and other style devices like the Friedman IR pedal, probably the Victory preamp pedals. I mean, even the Synergy Syn 1 and the Syn 2 devices, it's an incredibly potent power section for those types of devices as well. All right, that brings us to, you guessed it, or maybe you just clicked here in the timeline to get to the real important stuff here. It's time for the post-gig report. Now, I took this amp on stage last weekend with the Port City 212 cabinet here and my Synergy Syn 1, which was loaded with that brand new Fortin Killer Cali module. So rather than dragging this video into two separate product reviews in one, I've already given the Killer Cali unit its own proper time and review. So if you're interested in how that worked out with this amp, definitely go and check out that review video. It's probably popping up somewhere around here. Anyways, I enjoyed the Synergy Syn 20 wet dry wet setup back when I was reviewing that amp on stage. I liked it so much that I took the hot plate to the show with this amp to do the same type setup. This amp was plugged into the hot plate and then out into the cabinet and then line out from the hot plate down into the Quad Cortex for stereo effects and a pair of the ML Sound Labs reflex impulse responses for the speaker simulation. One output from the QC went to the house and the other output went to the ZLX monitor behind me on the stage, and to literally the surprise to no one, it was absolutely glorious sounding. So yeah, it was a lot more that I'm used to dragging out to our shows. I'm used to a much more compact and just quick grab and go setup, but to no one's surprise, it was an absolute animal on the stage, and I really didn't have to push it even remotely hard to get a big, loud, high gain, great rock sound. And the combination of the amp's built-in nice rock crunch sounds combined with the very martially voiced Killer Cali, it delivered an extremely powerful and massive sounding and flexible setup. Now there was one extra product that I did take on the stage with this amp for that show, but you're gonna have to hang tight for just a little bit longer for the review video for that coming in hopefully another day or two. It's pretty rowdy. Okay, it is time for a conclusion, and who do I think that this amp is for? If you're primarily a bedroom musician, you need to understand this amp is extraordinarily loud and it needs to be loud to sound good. Although it has a master volume control, a huge component of this amp and the sound is just the sheer punch and the brawn that the sound has that you just don't get at lower volumes. This amp needs to be loud. If you want the voice and the character of the 800, but you really don't have the facility to crank an amp that loud, maybe consider getting the 20-watt version. It's quite a bit cheaper than this full-size version, and it still has the EL34s, and you still get the classic JCM 800 mojo going with it. And I mean, they're good enough to tour with hailstorms, so they're probably going to be a worthy alternative option for you to consider as well. If you play out a lot, or you have a studio with really good sound isolation, or really cool neighbors, or you live in the middle of nowhere, this is an absolutely amazing amp, and I finally get it. I get why this amp has endured for so many decades, and why so many amp companies, sort of with their own unique twists and flavors, why they lean into the voice and the sound that this amp produces. So yeah, it was a crazy wait, but I finally got my hands on this and I think it was absolutely worth the wait. And there are several more videos with this amp coming. So one of the videos is going to be comparing this amp with the Splawn Nitro. Head to head, I want to hear how do they sound, how are they similar, how are they different, kind of where do they stack up against one another. And I also want to compare the amp to my Silver Jubilee down here. And even though the Jubilee is only 50 watts, I still want to hear what are these sonic differences in terms of the voice and the structure and the gain and things like that. Like how do those two compare as well? So definitely stick around for those. And in addition to that, I'm also going to be grabbing tons of neural captures of this amp with different boost pedals and things like that for all of you quad cortex and nano cortex guys. And maybe, if you didn't catch it, I finally got a Tonex pedal, but I've got to figure out the setup for that and sort of figure out how all that stuff works. And hopefully I'll have time to get some captures for the Tonex unit before I have to send this back. Now, if this sounds like an amp that you want to experience for yourself, I will have affiliate links for both this unit and the smaller 20 watt version down in the description. Zzounds don't pay me a dime for these reviews, so the affiliate links are by far the best way that you can help support what I do here. There's tons of work that goes on before I get in front of the camera and a lot of work that goes on afterwards when I'm making these videos happen, and I'm always striving to make the best sounding and well-informed content for you guys. So even if you're not interested in this amp, you can still use those affiliate links down there to go to any other product that you might be ready to grab. Maybe something else you've had your eye on for a while, accessories or things like that. Whatever you buy, a small cut of the purchase comes back to me, and if you want to help my channel and you're not in the market to buy anything right now, if you're not subscribed, every subscriber really does matter. So you can always help my channel grow by hitting some buttons down there and sharing this content with someone who might not be familiar with my channel and might be looking for something like this or literally anything else that I've reviewed on the channel. Okay guys, that is going to wrap up this video for the JCM 800, and this one was a long time coming, and another big thanks to the guys at Zzounds for sending me this out to try for a little while. Before I box it up though, I'm going to be hard at work creating more content for this unit, and I've got some really good ideas cooked up like I mentioned before, so definitely stay tuned for that. Alright guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch everyone in the next video. You guys take care.